In this video, I'll be rain testing not only this Teton Sports 1-person quick tent, but this 2-person quick tent as well. Before rain testing the 1-person quick tent, I checked all the seams and found that the seam connecting the tent body to the flooring was taped. The rest of the seams, like the yellow fabric to mesh seam, was not taped, and neither were the vertical seams, but they are protected by the Rainfly. I also checked the underside of the Rainfly and found that all the seams had been taped. To rain test this Teton Sports 1-person quick tent, I used this water hose to kind of simulate heavy rain, which looked like this. Also, I used a stopwatch to time exactly how long I was rain testing this quick tent. The Rainfly of the quick tent provides almost full coverage protection from the rain, and it also curves downwards so water doesn't collect at the top and instead drips down. I didn't have any pooling issues with this quick tent. At about 30 minutes in, I stopped the rain test for a bit to check in on the tent. I found that the tent was completely dry, which was very impressive. At about 43 minutes into the rain test, I noticed a patch of water seeping in through the Rainfly right here. So I stopped the rain test for a bit to check the underside of the Rainfly. It was very slightly damp. I continued the rain test until the 1-hour mark, and when I stopped the test, I noticed that quite a few spots on the Rainfly were damp. When I sat in the tent and ran my hand over the underside of the Rainfly, I found that it was mostly slightly damp. But thankfully, the inside of the tent was still completely dry. Even though the Rainfly was a little damp, the water didn't get on the mesh or the yellow tent fabric. Even this yellow tent fabric here that was not covered by the Rainfly was dry. The flooring feels quite thin and looked damp to me, but when I touched it, I realized that it was not wet, which was great. It isn't very thick though, so I highly recommend using a ground sheet with this tent. When I bought this tent a few years ago, it was called the Outfitter Quick Tent, and they rebranded it to the Vista Quick Tent shortly after. So I decided to buy the 2-person Vista Quick Tent as well and test it out. I found a few small differences. The 1-person quick tent doesn't have a bathed up feature, and the seam connecting the flooring to the tent body was taped, while the 2-person quick tent has a bathed up feature extending up to 5 inches, and the seam connecting the bathed up flooring to the tent body was not taped. Also, my 1-person quick tent didn't come with a Rainfly vent, while my 2-person quick tent has this built-in Rainfly vent that can be held open with a kickstand and a Velcro attachment. When I rain tested the 2-person quick tent the same way I rain tested my 1-person quick tent, under 1 hour of heavy rain, I found that there was no leaking onto the mesh of the tent from the vent, which was great. However, I noticed a few drops of water leaking in through the untaped seam between the bathed up flooring and the tent body after the hour was up. Otherwise, the rest of the results were the same as 1-person quick tent. If you found this video helpful so far, please help me hit that like button. Thank you, and I really appreciate it. Overall, I was really quite impressed with how water resistant the Teton Sports Vista quick tents were. I put the 1-person quick tent through 1 hour of non-stop heavy rain, and the inside of the tent was still completely dry, which was very reassuring. For the 2-person quick tent though, because the seam connecting the bathed up flooring and the tent body was not taped, a little bit of water leaked in. Once you seal this seam though, this tent should be completely dry as well. However, I think 1, maybe 2 hours max of non-stop heavy rain would be the limit for these Vista quick tents. At the 1 hour mark, the Rainfly was already starting to be damp, and also while the flooring wasn't wet, it kind of feels to me like that will be leaking soon. It's really not very thick, that's why. Oh, but if you're expecting only light rain, these Vista quick tents should hold up no problem. I put my 1-person Vista quick tent through a few hours of light rain, and it held up well with no leaks at all. For a full review on both the Vista 1-person and 2-person quick tents, check out these 2 videos right here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.